The lights in the hall felt colder now. Music still played, but fewer people listened. Many eyes moved again and again toward the woman standing at the back with her children. Something felt wrong. Something felt unfinished. On the stage, the host paused for a moment. His eyes went back to the card in his hand. His smile was no longer confident. The husband noticed it. His heart beat faster. He followed the host's eyes and saw where they landed. On his wife. His chest tightened. No, he thought. Not her. He forced a smile and clapped loudly, trying to pull attention back to himself. The woman did not move. She stood straight. Her hands rested gently on her children's shoulders. She felt their fear, their confusion, their shame. That hurt her more than the insult itself. She leaned down and whispered, "Stay close to me." They nodded. Years earlier, she had stood just like this, quiet, unnoticed. When the company was only an idea, she had worked without titles. When money was short, she sold her jewelry. When he failed, she lifted him up. But she never asked for praise. She believed family mattered more. Over time, her husband changed. He stopped asking for her opinion. He stopped coming home early. He stopped seeing her value. But she stayed silent. Silence became her shield. Back in the present, one of the board members wiped sweat from his forehead. "This was a mistake," he whispered to another. "She should not be here like this." The other replied quietly, "She was invited. Her name is on the list." The first man froze. "Her name?" "Yes," the second said. "At the very top." Fear moved through them. The host cleared his throat. "Before we continue," he said, "I would like to recognize someone special." The husband felt his throat go dry. He laughed nervously. "This is not part of the plan," he said lightly. "Let's enjoy the night." The host hesitated, then nodded. "For now," he said. The husband breathed again. He turned toward his wife and walked quickly to her. "This is not the place for drama," he said through tight teeth. "You're embarrassing me." She looked at him calmly. "I did not speak," she said. "You did." His eyes burned with anger. "After tonight," he whispered, "we will talk." She nodded. "Yes," she said softly. "We will." A waitress walked past and stopped when she saw the woman. "Ma'am," she said politely, "your table is ready." The husband snapped. "She doesn't have a table." The waitress looked confused. "But her name?" The husband cut her off. "She stands there." The waitress stepped back, unsure. The woman raised her hand gently. "It's okay," she said. "Thank you." The waitress walked away, embarrassed. The children looked down. The woman felt their pain, and something inside her shifted. Across the room, a senior investor watched closely. "That woman," he said quietly, "built this company." The person beside him laughed. "That's impossible." The investor shook his head. "I signed the papers myself." The laughter stopped. The host checked his watch again. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "please prepare yourselves. What comes next is unexpected." A strange silence filled the room. The husband's confidence began to crack. He walked back to the stage, sweat forming on his forehead. "This gala is about celebration," he said loudly. "Not surprises." The host met his eyes. "Sometimes," he replied, "truth arrives uninvited." At the back of the hall, the woman closed her eyes. She remembered the nights she cried alone, the days she felt invisible, the moments she chose peace over pride. But tonight, her children stood beside her. They deserved better. She opened her eyes and took one small step forward. The host lifted the microphone again. "Please," he said, "let us welcome the person whose name is written on every foundation of this company." The lights slowly shifted, not toward the husband, but toward the woman standing in silence. The husband turned around, and for the first time that night, he felt fear. The city lights shined bright that night. A luxury hotel stood tall, covered in gold lights and glass. Inside, a grand family gala was about to begin. Soft music played. Rich guests filled the hall. Men wore dark suits. Women wore shining dresses. Everyone smiled. Everyone looked important. This event belonged to a powerful company. A company everyone admired. A black car stopped at the entrance. A woman stepped out. She was not loud. She did not wear heavy jewelry. Her dress was simple, clean, and elegant. She held the hands of two children, a boy and a girl. They stayed close to her, as if the world felt too big. She looked at the building for a moment. Tonight was not just a gala. Tonight was a test. Inside the hall, her husband stood near the front. People surrounded him. They laughed with him. They praised him. "You are a great leader," one man said. Your company is everywhere now, another added. The husband smiled with pride. His back was straight. His voice was confident. Then he saw her. His smile disappeared. He walked toward her fast, his face tight with anger. "What are you doing here?" he asked in a low voice. She looked at him calmly. "This is a family gala," she said. "I came with the kids." He looked around. People were watching. He felt embarrassed. "This place is for important guests," he said coldly. "You don't belong at the front." The woman stayed quiet. He pointed toward the back of the hall. "You can stand there." The children looked up at their mother. Their eyes were confused and hurt. "Dad?" the girl whispered. The husband did not answer. The woman took a slow breath. She did not fight. She did not cry. She gently guided the children toward the back of the room. Whispers spread like fire. "Isn't that his wife? Why would he do that?" She looked so calm. She stood near the wall. No chair. No table. Just silence. But silence can be loud. An older man near the stage suddenly froze. His face turned pale. "That's her," he whispered. "Why is she standing there?" Another board member followed his eyes. His hands shook. "This is bad," he said quietly. The woman felt their looks. She already knew this night would not stay quiet for long. Welcome to Silent Family Tears, where hidden pain turns into powerful truth. If you enjoy emotional family stories with shocking twists, subscribe now. And if this story touches your heart, please leave a comment. Your voice matters. Continue the story. The music continued, but the mood slowly changed. On the stage, the host picked up the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, smiling. "Tonight is a night of success, family, and legacy." The husband stood taller. This was his world. His moment. The woman at the back closed her eyes. Her mind went back in time. Years ago, he had nothing. No power. No respect. She stood beside him then. She helped him dream. She supported him quietly. Papers were signed. Decisions were made. Everything was placed under her name, not for control, but for trust. "I believe in you," she had said. "Build it." He did. But success changed him. He became proud. He became cold. He forgot who stood beside him. Still, she stayed. For the children. For the family. Until tonight. Back in the hall, the host continued. "This company was built with sacrifice," he said. "With loyalty. With trust." The board members exchanged nervous looks. The husband smiled and clapped. The woman opened her eyes. Her face was calm. The little boy pulled her dress softly. "Mom," he asked, "why don't we have a seat?" She bent down and smiled gently. "Sometimes," she said, "we must stand first before we rise." The children did not understand. But the truth was already moving. One board member whispered, "If she speaks tonight, everything ends." Another replied, "She won't. She never does." The woman heard none of it. Her heart was steady. The host lifted his hand. "And now," he said, "we will soon invite the most important person of the night to the stage." The husband fixed his suit. He was ready. At the back of the hall, the woman looked at the stage. "I stayed silent for years," she thought. "Tonight, silence ends." She smiled. The host looked down at his card again. His smile faded. Slowly, his eyes moved away from the husband. They stopped on the woman standing at the back. The lights dimmed, and the truth was about to step forward. The lights slowly moved. Not toward the husband. Not toward the stage. They moved to the back of the hall. Toward the woman. A deep silence fell over the room. Music stopped. Glasses froze in midair. Conversations died. The husband turned around. At first, he smiled, confused. Then his smile faded. The lights were not on him. They were on her. "What is this?" he asked loudly, forcing a laugh. "This is a mistake." The host did not answer. He looked at the woman. "Ma'am," the host said carefully, "may I ask you to come forward?" Every eye followed her. The children held her hands tighter. She looked down at them and whispered, "It's okay. Stay right here." She took a step, then another. Her heels echoed across the silent floor. Each step felt heavy, not because of fear, but because of years of silence. People whispered again, but this time with shock. "That's his wife. Why is she walking to the stage? What is happening?" The husband's chest tightened. "Stop this," he said sharply, walking toward her. "This is not funny." She stopped in front of him. For the first time that night, she looked directly into his eyes. Calm, steady, unafraid. "You told me to stand," she said softly. "I did." Her words cut deeper than any shout. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. The host raised his hand. Sir, he said to the husband, please return to your seat. The husband stared at him. Do you know who I am? He demanded. The host nodded. Yes, he said. And that is why this moment matters. The room felt smaller, tighter. The woman walked past her husband and stepped onto the stage. She stood under the bright lights. Still calm, still quiet. The host cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, there seems to be confusion tonight. He paused. This company did not grow by luck alone. The board members shifted in their seats. One man wiped his forehead. Another avoided eye contact. The host continued. The legal documents. The foundation papers. The ownership records. The husband shook his head slowly. No, he whispered. This is wrong. The host turned toward the woman. Ma'am, he said respectfully. Would you like to speak? The room held its breath. The woman looked out at the crowd. She saw faces full of shock. Faces full of doubt. Faces full of judgment. She took a slow breath. I did not plan to speak tonight, she said gently. I only came as a wife. As a mother. Her voice was soft, but it carried. But I was asked to stand, she continued. So now, I will. The crowd stirred. The husband stepped forward again. Enough, he shouted. This is my company. She turned toward him. No, she said. It is ours. Or it was. Gasps filled the hall. The host lifted a folder. These documents, he said, show that the company has always been under her name. The husband froze. Someone dropped a glass. It shattered. That's impossible, a guest whispered. The host opened the folder and read. Founder, owner, final authority, all under her name. The woman closed her eyes for a moment. Memories rushed in. Long nights. Silent sacrifices. Broken promises. She opened her eyes again. I never wanted power, she said. I wanted respect. The room stayed silent. The husband's legs felt weak. You lied to me, he said quietly. She shook her head. No, she replied. I trusted you. That hurt more. The host stepped aside. Please, he said. The owner may continue. The word echoed. Owner. The woman looked toward her children. They stood frozen. She smiled at them gently. This company was built for family, she said. But somewhere along the way, family was forgotten. Tears filled some eyes in the crowd. The husband lowered his head. For the first time, he felt small. I stood behind you, she said. I stood beside you. And tonight, I stood away from you. She paused. But I will not stand in silence anymore. The host spoke again. Effective immediately, he announced. The board recognizes her as the sole authority. The husband looked up, shocked. Sole, he whispered. The woman looked at him one last time. Yes, she said. Silence ends here. The hall erupted into whispers. And the man who refused her a seat had just lost his throne. The hall did not feel grand anymore. The lights were still bright, but the air felt heavy. No one laughed. No one clapped. People whispered in low voices, afraid to speak too loud. The husband stood frozen near the stage. Moments ago, he had power. Now he had nothing. The word owner still echoed in his ears. He looked at his wife. She stood calm, strong, and quiet. The same woman he had ignored. The same woman he had pushed to the back of the room. Only now, everyone saw her. The board members stood up one by one. Ma'am, one of them said, his voice shaking. We apologize for the confusion tonight. Another added, the company is under your control. Fully. She nodded once. No smile. No pride. Just peace. The husband walked closer. His voice was low now. Broken. I didn't know, he said. If I knew, I would never. She raised her hand gently. Please, she said. Do not explain in front of everyone. The crowd watched closely. He swallowed hard. Can we talk? He asked. Please. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, yes, but not here. She turned away from him and walked toward her children. They ran to her. The little girl hugged her waist tightly. Mom, she whispered. Are we in trouble? The woman knelt down and held both children. No, she said softly. We are free. The host cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, tonight has shown us something important. He paused. Success without respect is empty. Some guests nodded. Others looked down in shame. The woman took her children's hands and began walking toward the exit. People moved aside for her, not because she was powerful, but because she was brave. At the door, the husband called out, Wait. She stopped. The room held its breath again. He walked closer, slowly. I was wrong, he said. I forgot who built this with me. His voice cracked. I forgot my family. She turned toward him. I did not come here for apology, she said. I came for dignity. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I know, he whispered. She looked at him one last time. I will not take revenge, she said. I will take responsibility. The board members looked confused. What does that mean? One asked. She faced the room. This company will continue, she said. But I will no longer work beside someone who forgot respect. Gasps filled the hall. The husband's eyes widened. You're leaving? He asked. She shook her head slowly. No, she replied. I am stepping forward. Then she turned to him. You are stepping away. The words hit him harder than any shout. Security quietly approached. The board chairman spoke carefully. Sir, he said to the husband, effective tonight, you are removed from leadership. The husband did not fight. He did not argue. He simply stood there, alone. The woman walked out of the hall with her children. Outside, the night air felt cool and clean. The city lights no longer felt heavy. The little boy looked up at her. Mom, he asked, will everything be okay? She smiled for the first time that night. Yes, she said, it will. The next morning, news spread everywhere. But the biggest shock was not the gala. It was her decision. She announced that she would step down from public leadership and place the company under a trust for her children. She chose peace over fame, power over silence. The husband watched the news alone. He finally understood. The seat he refused her was the seat he lost forever. Some tears are loud, others are silent, but the truth always speaks. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Silent Family Tears for more emotional stories with powerful twists. And please leave a comment. Your voice matters.